Ladies and gentlemen, I declare the graduate ceremonies officially open. We will begin our ceremony with Jennifer Armstrong, class of 2012, singing the national anthem. We ask that you remain standing during the national anthem and for the dedication of the ceremony offered by Reverend Juliet Bongfeld, URI University Chaplain.
First, allow me to extend greetings and congratulations to all the graduates from the URI Chaplains Association. We are an interfaith group, many of us volunteers, who are available to students within our faith communities to provide community and spiritual guidance as needs arise. We also work with each other and with other university departments and personnel to promote religious dialogue, understanding, and respect. It is fitting on this milestone occasion of commencement that we take a few moments to acknowledge the life of the Spirit and to pay tribute to that which gives our lives ultimate meaning, something we might name God or Spirit or Creator or wisdom or even humanity writ large. And so let us first remember with thanksgiving what brought us to this day and this place, the foresight of those who founded this university, the accumulated knowledge of those who paved the way for us in our respective disciplines, the accompaniment and sacrifices of families and friends, the encouragement and challenge of teachers and mentors, the companionship of fellow students who shared in the joys and struggles of the journey. And remembering these things, we call on that which we hold most dear and ask as we leave this setting that the knowledge we have gained might be wedded to wisdom, that our gifts might be used creatively to preserve the earth and benefit its peoples, that we might gracefully collaborate with others in the pursuit of common goals, and that in the striving toward vocational and personal fulfillment, we do not forget the realm of the Spirit. And may the people say, Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nasser Zawiya, Dean of the Graduate School of the University of Rhode Island.
Thank you so much. Please be seated. Thank you all for assembling here today as we gather together in celebration of scholarship and professionalism. It's truly an honor to stand before this impressive group of individuals and the loved ones who have come to bear witness to your success. The degree we confer upon you today stands a testament to the commitment you demonstrated towards advancing your career and enhancing the quality of your life through education. It inspires me, it reminds me life is a journey and not a destination. To prepare for this journey, you wisely invested in graduate education. This education equips you, knowingly and unknowingly, with a set of skills that enable you to more successfully navigate the increasingly uncertain world in which we now reside. While the trending topic of today is inescapably jobs, I'm reminded of yet another adage: give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. The skills you forge here at URI, the lasting intellectual foundation you layered brick by brick, was the wisest decision you have ever made to date. You know how to think critically, you know how to compete, you know how to argue, investigate, innovate, and coherently convey ideas to others. That's why you're going to succeed over the long run. That's how you're going to ensure a future of sustained career growth. That's what distinguishes you from your peers and equips you to withstand the winds of recessions, depressions, and economic downturns. My friends, your journey may be far from over, but your resume is replete with reasons to be optimistic. Think big. You did. Thank you, and I wish you all the best. It is now my pleasure to introduce URI's 11th President, David Dooley.
Thank you, Dean Zouia. Chairman Adrian, Governor Tessa Constant, Governor Eva Marie Mancuso, Professor Lisa Harlow, Provost DeHaze, President of the Graduate Student Association Scott Martin, distinguished members of the faculty, of whom we're very, very proud, candidates for our graduate degrees, who we're also very proud of, ladies and gentlemen who've joined us today for these celebrations and ceremonies. I welcome you all to the commencement of the University of Rhode Island for the graduate school. The first thing I would simply like to say to the graduating class is that it is an honor and a privilege to share these moments with you, your families, and friends, and with our faculty who have guided and mentored you. The degrees you will soon receive serve many purposes, depending upon your goals and immediate plans. For some, the degree represents the entrance into a professional role. For others, it is the foundation for further, even more advanced study. And for some, it is a requirement that must be accomplished in order to pursue your goals, but carries no guarantee that you will actually be able to achieve what you set out to do. Regardless of the individual import of the degree you have earned, it has taken a lot of talent, hard work, sustained commitment, and courage to arrive at this moment. It is those qualities that we're here to celebrate, and it is your achievements and your dreams that all of us here are honored to acknowledge and support. It's worth thinking, I think the truth, that you already possess more knowledge than the vast majority of people on this planet will ever have. Indeed, you now know more than the vast majority of people who have ever lived. But it is not your knowledge that is your most admirable characteristic. It is your courage. More than your talent or your dedication, it is your courage that will determine your success. I hope that it is the kind of courage not merely to pursue your own dreams, but to help others pursue theirs as well. By having the courage to dream and to provide support for others to dream, we renew the possibility, which is always before us, to make this world a better place for everyone. And I thank you personally for doing just that.
We are pleased to have with us today one of our graduate students who serves as president of the Graduate Student Association to offer welcoming remarks on behalf of the association. He's also going to be graduating today, Mr. Scott Martin.
Thank you, Dean Zuia. Thank you to the administration that's here today, and thank you to the representatives from the Board of Governors. I also want to thank the University of Rhode Island, my department chair, and also thank my advisor, Mark Wood. I want to thank you for allowing me to be a graduate student here for a wonderful opportunity and experience. Now, I'm graduating with my master's degree along the way to the PhD, so unfortunately they have to deal with me for a little bit longer. But I appreciate the experience and what they've made for me here. I also want to thank somebody, if I may, my wonderful wife, who has stood by me and with me through all of this. I want to thank the graduate students, all of you, for making this a wonderful experience. I especially want to thank the assistants, the graduate assistants, those of you who work so hard. You're a wonderful and a foundational piece of this university. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for the Graduate Student Association Executive Council and senators who have been involved this year to make this experience enhanced for us, socially and otherwise. Thank you very much. What a remarkable thing it is to be a graduate student. Where else can you spend 3 or maybe more years studying things like the stomach contents of skates and rays, writing a novel about travel and adventure literature from Victorian periods, 1880 to 1914, or intoxicating people before letting them drive their own car while you test them on an obstacle course? Now that last one is not an example from a graduate student's Friday night. That is actually a research project. But it's bittersweet to leave this lifestyle behind, as many of you will today. But before we go, we're here to celebrate, to give one last hurrah in this commencement. And I'm grateful to be here to speak with you for just a moment. I was speaking to my advisor earlier this morning, and he carefully pointed out to me that you do not need to speak for a long time. So I appreciate his advice, and I will take that, and I will be brief today. Because I suspect many of you have been to a lot of graduations before, high school, friends' high schools, undergraduate, or even graduate ceremonies. Combine that to the parents who are here today, and I'm sure they have heard quite a number of graduate ceremonies as well, or other ceremonies, and we have a lot of combined commencement experience. So some of you may be similar to myself and be somewhat of someone I might call a commencement cynic. You know the type I'm talking about. You look up at the podium, possibly roll your eyes in anticipation of the cheerleading, go out and change the world type of speech that will inevitably flow from the podium, and you worry a little bit. Well, I want to rouse those of you who may be a commencement cynic today when I speak to the graduates. And I want to say to you graduates today, perhaps in behalf of the cynics, you will not amount to anything. You won't change the world, you won't win the Nobel Prize, and you will not change the life of your students. You will not make any difference. That is, you will not make any difference if you do not try. You won't change the lives of your students if you don't stay after office hours every now and again, or care about what you teach. You won't win the Nobel Prize if to you, tenure means you don't have to do anything anymore, or you extinguish the enticement of discovery. You certainly won't change the world if you believe there's nothing you can contribute or give up on your passions. And you won't make any difference if you are too timid to ask the questions that excite you or allow your dreams to fade amidst the stress of a career. We sit here today with an uncertain future ahead of us. In fact, this period in our nation's history is quite unique. From social and political issues to technological and economic considerations, we are breaching situations never before faced. the only certainty there is that we can't see where we will be 5, 10, 20, or even 40 years from now. But what we can be certain of is that we'll make many choices between now and all of those years. We can't necessarily decide all of the situations in which we will be in, but we can choose how we will react to the situations we find ourselves in. So if we don't at least try to follow our passions or keep chasing down the answers to the questions that intrigue us, we won't have any chance of attaining any of these things. So again, I say to the cynics here today, I say to myself, giving up on inquiries that excite you, giving up on encouraging students to learn, and giving up on difficult problems would be a failure. We don't know how we will affect the lives of those around us or whether we will impact the world. But if we don't try, we'll never have a chance. So I'm willing to lay aside my sarcastic remarks for the day on commencement and allow myself to be swept up in the reflections of my experiences as a graduate student and be carried away by the hopeful anticipations of the future. And I hope each and every one of you will allow yourself to do the same as we celebrate this wonderful day today and as we hear from the remainder of the speakers. So in closing, I say congratulations to the class of 2012. Never give up and never let go of the passions that drive you onward. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, speaking today for the Board of Governors is Chairman Lorne Adrian. Please welcome Chairman Adrian.
I've been out of graduate school for 30 years, so I need my gear. Well, I would like to say that, Scott, I'm incredibly inspired by everything you said, and you are absolutely right, and clearly this group chose very, very wisely in a president. Thank you very much. Dean Zawaya, thank you very much. President Dooley, delighted to be here along with the rest of the platform guests to really do one thing, and that is to honor, celebrate, and congratulate the class of 2012. Congratulations. So it has been 30 years since I finished graduate school, and I must say that I still can feel the joy that you feel today, and it's really, really great to share that with you. In the past year, with the help of many of you, my board has made progress identifying opportunities to advance our mission of improving access, affordability, and effectiveness of higher education in this great state, to provide for so many more people the gift that you and I have been lucky enough to secure. My friend and colleague Clayton Christensen, a professor at Harvard Business School, has been helping us imagine how we can serve you and Rhode Island better. Clay is challenging our long-held assumptions, and he is inspiring us to consider how dramatic innovations in technology and communications might be harnessed to help faculty and staff do what they do best, help advance student learning, and help control the ever-increasing costs that threaten to put higher education out of reach for all but a few Rhode Islanders. Earlier this year, Professor Christensen was named the #1 business thinker on the planet, largely for his study of how, without constant innovation, companies and industries are threatened with extinction. But I reference him today because he has another message that I believe might resonate for us all. In the past few days, just earlier this week, this top business thinker on the planet released a new book that has nothing to do with business and everything to do with living. The book is entitled, How Will I Measure My Life? I suspect that each of you will, and indeed should, ponder that question as you prepare to go out and, as Scott suggests, make your contribution to the world. In his new book, Professor Christensen suggests that we consider 3 questions. First, How can I be sure that I'll be happy in my career? Clay suggests that the answer to that question is informed by Frederick Hertzberg, who says that the powerful motivator in our lives isn't money, it's the opportunity to learn, grow in responsibilities, contribute to others, and be recognized for achievements. Second question, how can I be sure that my relationships become an enduring source of happiness? Clay offers that the answer is about how we allocate our time, treasure, and talent. Are we making investments first in things, or are we making investments first in people and relationships? In the end, will the impact of our investments line up with what we professed to be the purpose of our lives? The third question he poses is, how can I be sure that I will stay out of jail? I'm 58 years old, and so far so good, but it's early. And I do know, actually, that this is a serious question, because there are so many ways that I and each of you can make choices on the margins that can be rationalized and are, frankly, convenient, but are wrong. Clay suggests that part of the answer to this question about how to stay out of jail lies in humility. Not humility defined by self-deprecating behavior, but humility defined by the respect with which we regard others. Good behavior flows naturally from that kind of humility. If we respect everyone, it is much more difficult to make a choice that will bring harm to anyone. A side benefit of giving respect to all is that it produces a humble eagerness to learn something from everyone, thus providing learning opportunities that are truly limitless. Congratulations again on your accomplishments. May you invest your time, treasure, and talent to change the world in wonderful ways, leaving ripples that last far beyond your space and time. Think big. As URI alums, it's what we do. Congratulations.
It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our commencement speaker. Dr. Lisa Harlow is a University of Rhode Island psychology professor since 1985, after she received her PhD in measurement and psychometrics from UCLA. The main focus of her scholarship is on leadership and teaching, is on an increasing interest in retention, performance, and diversity in quantitative science. Her scholarly work involves more than 70 publications in top journals, including Multivariate Behavioral Research, the Structural Equation Modeling Journal, Health Psychology, the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, and the Journal of Behavioral Medicine. She has also published 5 books, including What If There Were No Significance Tests and The Essence of Multivariate Thinking, both of which have been positively reviewed and have an international audience. Her research grants involve more than $7 million in funding, including a collaborative 7-year National Science Foundation institutional transformation grant on advancing women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and a 5-year NSF grant on quantitative training for underrepresented groups. Dr. Harlow has been recognized for her leadership at the top of her professional organizations. She was the 2005 elected president of the American Psychological Association, Division of Evaluation, Measurement, Statistics, and Assessment. Furthermore, she is currently serving as past president of the Society of Multivariate Experimental Psychology, the most prestigious professional organization in her area. She is the founding editor for the Multivariate Applications series that has published more than 47,000 copies of 20 influential multivariate books. She is associate editor for Psychological Methods, the top quantitative journal in her field, past associate editor of the Structural Equation Modeling Journal, and on editorial boards for multivariate behavioral research and European methodology journals. She has many other honors, including the most recent 2012 Scholarly Excellence Award from the University of Rhode Island. Please give a welcome to Professor Lisa Harlow.
Well, that was very, very gracious, Dean Zawiya. And I want to welcome all of you, all the dignitaries and guests, and most especially the students and their families. This is a very big day. All right, so I had to promise my husband and daughter that I wasn't going to bore you with any equations. But listen, I'm all about making it fun. So let's see if it works, okay? I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it takes to have big thinking. You know that here. Everybody's reminding you. But that's what I'm all about. Multivariate thinking is just thinking big and embracive and not being so narrow and, piddly-diddly. All right. So here we go. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I think. I'll tell you what some of the experts say. And then I'll give you some examples from everyday life. And you'll say, what do they have to do with statistics? You tell me afterwards. They're all about it. Thinking big, multivariate, okay? All right, so if I could give you one message, it would be this. Quantitative training and multivariate thinking open up possibilities. They're enriching, and without them, the world would be very bland, very amorphous, very unknowing, very unknowable. Today we have data explosions everywhere. Facebook, Google, myriad facts, websites, media venues, online databases. We're constantly asked to process all this information and come up with very concise summaries. It's not a question of being not interested in quantitative methods or thinking you're not good. We all remember Barbie in a sweet voice. I think math is tough. Listen, none of that. Without those skills, we lose out on myriad opportunities. Now, I'm not proud of Barbie, sorry. But we might ask, is quantitative judgment attainable or even desirable? I've had some very bright people tell me, why would I want to know that? I understand. Well, I'm going to share with you some of my views. In my field of quantitative psychology, it's not always an oxymoron, we investigate human behavior by exploring significant differences. How do things differ from one thing to the next? And meaningful associations. How do things come together in very meaningful ways? And we help propose models that put together vast amounts of information in very understandable, comprehensible ways. In the social sciences and other fields, there is a growing trend. We can't ignore it, of getting away from looking at one single variable, one single focus, and saying whether it is or it isn't significant. No, instead we want to look at a much more multivariate approach. It's not always mathematical, it's just thinking big. All right, so we're going to look at a large set of variables, take into account the relationships, the pattern of relationships among them, try to understand the process by which they came together, and avoid at all costs a narrow, imprecise view. That's what it's all about. That's it. Okay, so here's an illustrative example. Everybody has this at some time in their life, some more than others. Imagine going to a doctor's office. You have a series of long-term ailments. You know there's something there. You're hoping to hear a diagnosis and a course of action that would be able to address your concerns. Upon arriving, you are scarcely looked at. And you're not even questioned, really. And maybe you have a single procedure. Maybe a temperature taken, maybe blood pressure, but not both. Well, after a series of waits and delays, significant, you are then told succinctly and matter-of-factly, either you are or you are not ill, and then you're summarily dismissed. Well, all right. How many would feel satisfied with that approach? How much confidence would you have in the conclusion shared with you? How likely are you to want to return a visit to this physician? All right, so this example might seem a bit contrived, but it emphasizes all too common a scenario in which the key players hold to a very limited, very narrow perspective and a very uninformative decision rule that ultimately provides an outcome that's very unsatisfying. So in contrast, consider this. Again, a little bit contrived. Consider a more multifaceted, a broader approach. Your physician asks numerous questions. Maybe he or she looks you in the eye while asking these, and studies your case, takes several probably quantitative measures, your temperature, blood pressure, your pulse, and maybe some qualitative ones, that stick in your mouth, maybe a stethoscope assessment. All you nurses will correct me later. On your heart and lungs, maybe your ears and eyes and all that will get a good check. And after several considered moments of thought, you're told, I believe there's a 50 to 60% likelihood, give or take 5%, that you have a certain condition that has been shown to occur with approximately 70% of the people who come in with your set of symptoms and your background. Further, your physician sketches a little model of the pertinent organs and impeding conditions, as well as a good, clear verbal description, and tells you about your situation and how to deal with it. Okay, this is much more comprehensive. It's what it's all about. It's what we're talking about is needed. And all of you, I think, have the ability to go out and do these kinds of things. All right, so here we go. I've said my say, but we have more. I have to tell you what the experts have to say because they know far more than me. All right, so here's some big thinkers. Herbert Simon, he was a Nobel laureate in economics and a noted psychologist, by the way. And he studied human behavior and said, ultimately, what we have to do is find the simplicity and the seeming complexity of life around us. It is simple as can be, but we're just getting obscured by everything around us. That's all he said we have to do, every one of us, not just scientists. George Lakoff and Rafael Nunez, also cognitive psychologists, said, well, I think you also have to learn how to make metaphors and analogies and show how something is similar to something you know. And in that way, you can come to understand what's going on. Similarly, Brian Hayes, an American scientist, writer, says, yes, just examine and explore the patterns that frequently occur in our environment in the hopes of identifying some common characteristics or features. So you can just imagine doing that in any walk of life. You don't have to be a mathematician or a scientist. Toby Huff, a professor of sociology at UMass Dartmouth, says, what's even more important than all of that is we have to spark and engage our own curiosity. And that is what's going to help us lead to a great understanding that will be able to allow us to synthesize and lead to discover in greater creativity. All right, so we pull all these together and we say, all right, what are these astute thinkers talking about? For discovery, this is what it is: inquiring, comparing, considering innovative ideas, and have the potential to assess the import and the generalizability of the connections and patterns that you're noticing. So every one of you here has been trained to do that in many different ways. And this is all the secrets. All right, so here we go. That was some of their initial thinking and how we get started. But we really have to follow through a little bit more than that. And we have to say, how can we go a little further? Edward Wilson, a biologist, says, you have to be able to show how things are unified. And he went and wrote a book on consilience. And what he says is, this shows how large bodies of information can be unified. And he advocates, in so doing, you have to use very strong theory and pull together multiple factors and show how they intersect. We have to do that in our everyday work. Stephen Hawking, the renowned physicist, says, yes, you have to do that. what Wilson was talking about. And he says, use this process called sum over histories. And he says he borrowed this from somebody else, where you select the most likely models of all these things that you're considering in front of you, and you rule them out one by one until you come to the most probable solution. And then you hold on to that until someone moves you over with a better idea. Okay, let's see who else we have. Let's talk about Keith Devlin. Oh, we don't want to talk about math, but here we go. A mathematician. He writes, where the real world is concerned, it doesn't include us always. Oh, sure it does. We have to go out, and whether we like it or not, we have to collect or at least face the fact that there's data. We entered there the world of statistics. I love that field. Okay. So, similarly, another stodgy stats guy, Francis Galton, who was the cousin of Charles Darwin, says, really, it is all about statistics, but what statistics is all about is the beauty and the interest of life. Gosh, he had a great imagination. I actually would agree with all these perspectives in my work in multivariate methods. It is possible to fully comprehend the world, or is it possible to fully comprehend the world around us and find ultimate truth and understanding? Probably not. But we can come and have come quite far in many forums. So I want to share a few examples, and some of these, again, are not going to be mathematicians, statisticians, and scientists, but they exemplify the very principles I'm trying to share with you that are involved. John Nash, okay, he's pretty obvious. Everyone knows the beautiful mind person. He was always noticing patterns. This led him to receive a Nobel Prize in economics. His work shed light on factors surrounding cooperation and non-cooperation. His work is applied diversely to mathematics, economics, biology, computer science, and even politics, among other areas, extensively and elegantly demonstrating quantitative and multivariate thinking. But in a very different field, Vincent van Gogh noticed images of light and color that brought us unparalleled art, such as Starry Night, depicting a multivariate vision filled with the wonders of heavens overlooking a quaint earthly village of myriad homes, hills, and nature. There was nothing univariate or narrow about Van Gogh. And Toni Morrison, a writer of a dozen books or more, talks about far-reaching, embracing, and sometimes jarring topics, easily winning her a Pulitzer Prize in 1987 for her book Beloved. She is the only American in the last 20 years to win a Nobel Prize in literature, acknowledging and honoring her ability to express numerous, highly relevant, and generalizable truths. Again, that's what it's all about. A little bit closer to home, these big thinkers are not always out in the distance. They're right here, right homegrown in Rhode Island, or at least close by. Joe Perillo is right here in South County. He's a legendary and gifted jazz musician. He also happens to be a professor and director of jazz studies and the current chair of music at URI. You have only to listen to an opening bar in one of his jazz compositions to realize that Joe is a master at the science of pattern recognition and pulling together a diverse array and sometimes dissonant range of sounds to form a beautiful melding of meaning and music. Mary Sullivan is a professor and director of graduate studies in nursing at URI, where she earned her PhD. We know how to do it right here in Rhode Island. She is known for her research in grants studying the care and development of premature infants, considering the impact of biology, the environment, the family, medical history risks, and positive outcomes, in research that stands alone in the depth and breadth of its focus. She's very much a very big multivariate thinker. Ying Sun was a URI graduate student right here in biomedical engineering, and he went on to achieve a PhD in electrical engineering at Worcester Polytech. Today, Dr. Sun is Director of Biomedical Engineering at URI, where he works with students and international colleagues to devise numerous instruments that take into account human, mechanical, and medical needs to address these concerns. He was also honored, he was honored this weekend. He's right there in front of us, and if you can talk him into it, he plays a beautiful classical guitar that I happened by a few years ago in a little bistro in Wakeville. All right, so sorry about that one. Shh, I'll hear about it. Okay, another example, Margaret Leinen received her PhD in geological oceanography from URI and went on to serve in myriad leadership positions. The Dean of Oceanography and Vice Provost of Environmental Programs, the Assistant Director of Geosciences at the National Science Foundation, and she is now continuing her work at Florida Atlantic University. Her work bridges multiple disciplines, including geology, oceanography, biology, chemistry, engineering, and even the social, behavioral, and economic sciences, taking her to the lower sediments of the oceans, which she studies in her research, across a span of international waters, all the while spiraling upward near the topmost pinnacle of her field. Another final example before I try to wrap it up. I know. Michael Brennan is graduating today. Look around, he's here somewhere, and he is going to get a PhD in oceanography and will continue working with Dr. Robert Ballard, our own and the world's renowned Titanic remains discoverer. Their work most certainly involves making careful observations, alternate hypotheses, and multiple readings, at least some of which I'm quite sure are quantitative in their archaeological study of the oceans and their treasures. All right, so we have to get through with this. So what does this bring us? From the stars of Van Gogh to the depths of the ocean? Okay, look around at all of us, down the aisles, across the room. There's even one person that was way far up there, near and far, and ask, who are we anyway? And how does all of this apply to us? Well, what I see are considerably educated and influential individuals who shun narrow and ungrounded ideas that speak to only an elite few, and who want to move forward to carry our big thinking beyond URI to businesses, educational institutions, environmental agencies, to centers of art and creativity, to medical realms, to the media, policy, and political domains, to men and to women, to older and younger, from all backgrounds, majority and minority, to international arenas across the globe. To all these and more, we want to illuminate and invigorate those with whom we work and live with considered, creative, and yes, quantitative thinking that has the potential for bringing about great discovery and change. So where does this all take us, and to whom does it pertain? Who indeed? Absolutely all of us. And can we all actually be quantitatively literate? I believe we most certainly can. Yes, we can. We are all seeking, thriving, questioning, reasoning, creating, planning, debating, and solving. A collective amalgamation of wonder and possibilities, materializing talents, newly manifested dreams, emerging visions of who we are in a wide world that seemingly has no limits, while realizing, especially here across, well, we can't say it's just Rhode Island, it's everywhere, that resources are sometimes quantitatively and qualitatively very inadequate. But hopefully realizing in the process that our thinking, our spirits, our contributions, at least partially born from and finally honed here at URI, may certainly be boundless. Thank you.
now proceed with the conferring of graduate degrees and the hooding of the doctoral recipients. Will the candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy please rise? President Dooley, I present the candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy and ask that you confer on them that degree.
Thank you, Provost DeHaze. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the good part. Certainly the best part of my years. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Governors for Higher Education of the State of Rhode Island, and on the recommendation of the university faculty, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto, and I congratulate you on behalf of the entire university. Doctors, please approach the stage to be hooded by the provost and your major professor.
Santosha Amu, Major Professor David Heskett. Rachel Baldwin, Major Professor Ellen Flannery Schroeder. Timothy Ball, Major Professor Victor Fay Wolf, Hooding Professor Keith Killingbeck. Catherine Berger, Major Professor Thomas Mather. Joseph Brady IV, Major Professors Jimmy Oxley and James Smith, Hooding Professor Jimmy Oxley. Jennifer Brandt, Major Professor Elaine Philippe Durand, Hooding Professor Karen Stein. Michael Brennan, Major Professor Robert Ballard. Alicia Caparasso, Major Professor, Robert Ballard. Christopher Carbone, Major Professor, Stephen Kay. Patricia Castle, Major Professor, Colleen Redding. Eugene Shabbat, Major Professor, Ying Sun. Hong Chen, Major Professor, Mohammed Fagri, Hooding Professor, Konstantin Anagnostopoulos. Alice Chang, Major Professor, Catherine Quinna. Shripad Chitnis, Major Professor, Fatima Aklaji. Catherine Croft Bell, Major Professor, Robert Ballard. Kelsey Drucken, Major Professor, Christopher Kincaid, Hooding Professor, Catherine Kelly. George Farley, Major Professor, William Euler. Stephanie Forshner Dancause, Major Professor, David Rowley. Nathaniel Gardner, Major Professor, Arun Shukla. Trudy Ann Gale, Major Professor, Patricia Morikoff. Katarina Gilqua, Major Professor Donna Schwartz-Barcott. Michelle Guidon, Major Professor Carol Thornburg. Anju Gupta, Major Professor Jeffrey Bothan. Benjamin Hagan, Major Professor Stephen Barber. Mahala Harper, Major Professor Naomi Mandel. Grace Janusis, Major Professor Lisa Wyatt, Pudding Professor Gary Stoner. Kristen Klenk, Major Professor Betty Young, Pudding Professor Jay Fogelman. Jason Krumholtz, Major Professor Candace Oviatt, Pudding Professor David Smith. Puneet Gumhar, Major Professor Arun Shukla. Alexis Lamb, Major Professor Ellen Flannery Schroeder. Lasker, Major Professor Joel Dane. F. Patrick Latuca III, Major Professor David Bird, Pudding Professor Jay Fogelman. Mary Levely, Major Professor Gene Miller. Shun Lee, Major Professor, J.C. Lowe. Don Liu, Major Professor, Gerhard Müller. Yuhong Liu, Major Professor, Yan Sun. Allison Mitchell, Major Professor, Susan Brady. Catherine Malloy, Major Professor, Libby Miles. Liam Nguyen, Major Professor, Judy Beckman. Elizabeth O'Brien, Major Professor, Margaret Rogers. Brian Oakley, Major Professor, John Boothroyd. Frank Palladino, Major Professor, Jerry Lottis, Pudding Professor, Mark Comerford. Andrew Plug, Major Professor, Naomi Mandel. Joanna Portman Daly, Major Professor, Robert Schwegler, Pudding Professor, Mike Pennell. William Preston, Major Professor, Josie Campbell. Bogdan Prokopovich, Major Professor, Sylvia Dorado. Marco Quesada Alpizar, Major Professor, Seth Masinko, Pudding Professor, Rob Thompson. Mark Regine, Major Professor Stephen Kogut. Cynthia Roberts, Major Professor Catherine Quinna. Nicole Rohr, Major Professor Carol Thornburg. Laura Scagliola, Major Professor Catherine Quinna. Karen Sherman, Major Professor W. Grant Willis. Michael Sapala, Major Professor Gabrielle Cass-Simon. Elizabeth Smith, Major Professor Stephen Swallow. Tiffany Smith, Major Professor Rob Thompson. Miao Song, Major Professor Jae-Hoon Wong, Hooding Professor Aaron Shukla. Janet Spinelli, Major Professor Patricia Burbank. Karen Sullivan, Major Professor Emi Uchida. Robin Sullivan, Major Professor Gary Stoner. Srikanth Sukhavajala, Major Professor Joel Dane. Naresh Venkayalapati, Major Professor, Stephen K. Nathan Vinatero, Major Professor, John King and Rebecca Robinson, Pudding Professor, John King. Barry Volson, Major Professor, David Bankston. Wen Kai Huang, Major Professor, Yan Sun. Dayanjali Wunjay Singha, Major Professor, Yana Reshetniak, Pudding Professor, Leonard Kahn. Todd Woodard, Major Professor, Mark Comerford. Da Zhou, Major Professor, Bingfang Yan. Toro Yumada, Major Professor, Otto Gregory. John Yanusis, Major Professors, Joanne Lozier and Thomas Needham, Pudding Professor, Joanne Lozier.
Will the first ever candidate for the degree Doctor of Nursing Practice please rise? President Dooley, I present to you this path-breaking candidate for the degree Doctor of Nursing Practice and ask that you confer on her that degree.
It's good to be first. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Governors for Higher Education of the State of Rhode Island, and on the recommendation of the university's faculty, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Nursing Practice with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto, and I congratulate you on behalf of the entire university.
Jocelyn Leska.
Will the candidates for the Doctor of Physical Therapy please rise? President Dooley, I present these candidates for the degree Doctor of Physical Therapy and ask that you confer on them that degree.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Governors for Higher Education of the State of Rhode Island, and on the recommendation of the university faculty, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Physical Therapy with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto, and I congratulate you on behalf of the entire university.
Anya Bishak. Kayla Boggs. Christina Donnelly. Danielle Dwyer. Hannah Furry. Tanya Goodyaby. Catherine Seamier. Robert Gudadorla. Alia Hansen. Michael Jacobs. Elizabeth Johnson. Aaron Johnson. Heidi Johnson. Jennifer Kay. Natalie Masson. Megan Odell. Brittany Osborne. Danielle Parent. Lindsay Rambacure. Joanna Santilli. Mackenzie Talbot.
President Dooley, I now have the honor of presenting to you the candidates who will be certified by the university for the master's degrees. After rising, I ask the candidates for each master's degree to remain standing until the degree is conferred. Will the candidates for the Masters of Arts please rise? Will the candidates for the Master of Science please rise? Will the candidates for the Masters of Business Administration please rise? Will the candidates for the Master of Environmental Science and Management please rise? Will the candidates for the Master of Library and Information Studies please rise? Will the candidates for the Master of Marine Affairs please rise? Will the candidates for the Master of Music please rise? Excuse me. Will the candidates for the Master of Oceanography please rise? And will the candidates for the Master of Public Administration please rise? President Dooley, I present to you these candidates for the master's degrees in course and ask that you confer on them their degrees.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Governors for Higher Education of the State of Rhode Island, and upon the recommendation of the university faculty, I hereby confer upon you the master's degree, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto, and I extend to you the congratulations of the entire university.
Masters, please be seated.
Catherine Emerald. Carolyn Anderson. Danielle Anderson. Jennifer Annier. Scott Martin. Elizabeth Benoit. Stephanie Blanchard. Anthony Bresnan. Rebecca Bringhurst. Robin Butler. Ingrid Calderon. Maria Carosia. Marissa Casperson. Joshua Choma. Laura Clayman. Christina Connolly. Shannon Cooney. David Cormier. Jonathan Drew. Noel Doyon. Jonathan Dupre. Catherine Egan. Rebecca Eif. Sarah Evans. Holly Hashi. Jennifer Hawkins. Brittany Hildebrand. Lisa Johnson. Elizabeth Kennedy. Kimberly Kerwin. La Liberty. Jamie La Liberty. Liana Lombardo. Megan Larrett. Rebecca McAllister. Michaela Olson. Agnes Pelopita. Ana Laura Perez. Matthew Pierce. Kevin Reardon. Lori Rizzo. Jessica Robinson. Christine Ryan. Jenna Cisco. Laura Tavares. Gary Yagubian. Kate Yentes. Sarah Young. Emily Abramson. Stephanie Asito. Adiyinka Adioki. Assad Akinfloren. Sean Alvarez. Daniel Atto. Amanda Azar. Jennifer Bailey. Mamadou Balde. Timothy Boshbees. Noen Bibi. Gina Bassasini. Priparna Bhattacharya. Jessica Bogosian. Frank Bro. Ephraim Bromberg. Matthew Carmody. Angela Caruso. Diana Cavalier. April Chappett. Michael Clark. Danielle Clift. Jeremy Cogswell. Brendan Colonna. Ruby Costa. John Crisafulli. Brooke Delosio. Maida Daly Cano. Joe Doxis. Elizabeth Delfino Laplume. Angela Del Padre. Aaron Dinette. Kyle Dolan. Gabrielle Dunham. Matthew Dwyer. Christopher Elmer. Alexander Escher. Heather Fobert. Dean Figurato. Clarissa Fillion. Arlene Marie Finley. Kimberly Foster. Emily Galen. Lauren Gallagher. Andrew Gofro. Ashley Geller. Richard Genovese. Allison Golden. Catherine Golek. Nicole Gorag. Daniel Gracia. Carrie Gregson. Stephanie Graytack. Wendy Grennan. Janet Grigg. Christopher Harvey. Jeremy Henry. Christina Heon. Anna Hernberg. Joyce Hickey. Thomas Hilfer. Katrina Hordern. Dwayne Jones. Megan Keelty. Richard Kalanda II. Jeremy Copen. Teresa Kranusa. Monique LaFrance. Allison LeBlanc. Ricky Lepkowski. Dominic Lasiduance. Brooke Lowry. Adam Lupino. Alexis Lyman. Patrick Lyons. Jason Madwed. Jessica McLeod. Jean Mirandola. Eileen Maran. Krista Martinelli. Christine McGrain. Kimberly McGinnis. Wayne McNeil. Courtney McNutt. Courtney Medeiros. Jahan Minakan. Rui Mantia. Kyle Morris. Pailamoya Madouf. Michaela Nardone. Wilson Okello. Michael Polano. Andrew Pelosi. Kristen Palmasino. Praveen Parva. Mary Patty. Dale Pelletier. Pedro Perella. Amanda Petty. Laura Pignataro. Aaron Pike. Andrew Paggi. Michael Portal. Renwei Chow. David Records. Jenna Reese. Fazel Rahani. Jillian Rivers. Brett Russo. Trisha Sarvia. Amelia Scott. Allison Separak. Muna Shah. Stephen Shalalis. Kaylee Siddell. Eric Silva. Brittany Slater. Ellen Slater. Eric Smith. Sarah Soares. Sarah Stevens. Brittany T. Stovall. Daniel Trapani. Lisa Turner. Brian Umansky. Dominique Vanelli. Hillary Vargas. Carl Walls. Wendy Wang. Whitney Waterman. Catherine Weller. Prescott Williams IV. Ali Zeri. Yue Zhao. John Arujo. Jonathan Bain. Ian Cameron. Michael Cancelleri. Chapin? Maureen Chapien. Rafi Chapien. Beth Chanazi. Regina Costa. Matthew Kupka. Sean Finneran. Eric Flath. Garand. Matthew Garand. Juan Hernandez. Jan Hilfer. Raymond Hudon. Aaron Knight. Andrea Lynch. Patrick Kevin Martin. Philip E. Mascalet. Ryan McCarthy. Christopher McGivney. Jonathan Mogul. Catherine Mogul. Sydney Norwitz. Quintal? Rebecca Quintal. Christopher Riley. Jason Roslin. Eugenie Roy. Jacqueline Schnabel. Vu Su. Natalie Vasquez Ruiz. Sonia Wilson. Danielle Birmingham. Amanda Frazier. Michael Viola. Catherine Angelo. Rachel Axelson. Elise Caruso. Erica Cataldi Roberts. Jennifer Cohen. William Correnti. Colleen Cote. Laura Gladding. Joanne Gongaleski. Leslie Hahn. Bethany Jarrett. Heather Murray. Julie O'Brien. Cynthia Prophet. Matthew Quillich. Lindsay Shy Rakers. Maria Richardson. Lucinda Scott Kellermeyer. Amanda Vanna. Lorraine Winthrop. Alan Witt. Jason Brand. Benjamin Getch. Ellen Motoy. Jennifer Armstrong. Michael Daniels. Gregory Duzinski. David Heath. Kevin Kohler. Christopher Lambert. Mark Medeiros. Holly Radigan. Peter Waite. Richard Bianculli. Sandra Cano. Amanda Clark. Robin Ashley Covington. Julie DeRocher. Gabrielle Hauk. Sarah Karolikis. Jennifer Kelshaw. James Mazeral. Carlos B. Peñancos. And William Swan.
Would you please rise for the Alma Mater, which will be sung by Catherine Hammersley, class of 2012. The words are found on page 2 of the program. I would like to invite all of you to a reception at Hope Commons. You may leave your vehicles parked where they are presently parked. There will be signs and ushers to direct you to the reception. I now declare the 2012 graduate commencement ceremonies officially over.
Maple Leaf. Yes, Maple Leaf.
All the repeats good.
Repeats are good.
1, 2, ready, and.